So if the question is what are the differences between opportunities for a postgraduate versus a graduate, then frankly speaking, I don't see many differences, at least from a corporate perspective. So if you're thinking of a career in teaching Japanese, then obviously it's different. But in terms of, I'll speak in the context of corporate, employment, and the opportunities are more or less the same. Right? Having said that, as an employer, if I have to choose between a BA and an MA graduate, then definitely the MA graduate will bring in a better Japanese language capability, and he or she might also have some specialized skills like interpretation or something else which he or she might have done during their MA program. So that's pretty much the difference that I look. However, if I am hiring for a more generalist role, like for example, corporate strategy or sales or consulting or research, then frankly speaking, I do not see a very big difference between graduates and postgraduates.
Just to also set a context to this question, I have done 2 master's degrees. One is in Japanese language. Second is my MBA from National University of Singapore, where I also exchanged at Northwestern University in the Kellogg School of Management. Now to answer this question, I would just like to mention that again, I would like to go back to that framework which I mentioned a while, which is about what do you like, what you can do, what sort of aptitude you have, and what are the skills that you can monetize. Now coming back to the specifically coming back to the Japanese language abilities and culture. As all the panelists have mentioned, now you will not be hired for your Japanese language skills. To be frank, when I am also carrying out my hiring, I am carrying it out more in the sense of what sort of specific skill sets you have, and if there's a Japanese language element to it, it's an additional plus. That said, once you are in your Japanese language program, and because we have so many various resources at our disposal in today's world, we can look at structuring our Japanese language learning over a period of 5 years. 3 to 5 years. And you can see that in the first 2 years, you can start focusing on the Japanese language and try to reach the N3 level. I'm trying to be a bit more specific in this context right now. But after you do your N3 level, also try to see what sort of specific area you want to go into. And I'll tell you, it's a very interesting situation. I was exposed to the field of Japanese quality, the TQM field, Total Quality Management field. And that was the time I started learning about what are the various functions in an organization, how do these functions work with each other, and that led me to learning more about management and understanding the concepts of management. It laid a framework for my MBA almost 10 years in advance, and then I started picking up the various experiences in the industry, inside the organizations, and then I went on to go to the MBA. So coming back to this point, I think there's a variety of career options. Right now we see from sectors in automotive, IT, of course, we are seeing a lot of traction happening for taking in various Indian talents into Japan. So you can also look into other areas like pharmaceuticals, you have marine engineering, you have got precision instrument manufacturing and so on. There's a lot of areas where you can try your hand. But at the same time, I would like to mention that make sure that focus is not diluted. So try to focus on the language first, then add an additional skill. If you're interested into management or something, you can move ahead to an MBA course. Do it from various institutions around the world. Then you get a better exposure as to how business works on the ground. So in a nutshell, I would mention that there's sky's the limit. So just go for it.
So, Prasad and Vinny already mentioned about the opportunities. Like, when we were actually looking for a job, that was a time when, many Japanese companies were still coming to India. Then after that, we witnessed a season where Indian companies started to go into Japan, like, IT companies and pharmaceutical companies now going to Japan. Now, it started, a trend is already starting, like India and Japan together going to the rest of the world. So that is the trend, which we are seeing right now. So in this environment, as a Japanese language learner, the real expectation is, in my view, it's like as a beginner, the company looks at you like what or a raw material which they can develop you in different angles. So in the previous panelists also mentioned that you need to really find out what you really like to do, and you can grab the opportunity accordingly. But over the long run, the expectation would be something like the real bridge, as long as you are continuing your career, something which is related to Japanese and Japanese language and Japan culture, then it would be something like a real bridge between the India and between the Indian organizations and Japanese organization, where there's a huge gap actually, like which is not visible, but there is a invisible gap, and somebody who can really understand this thing and fix this issue, and smoothen the operations between these two cultures. That will be the real expectation on the long run as a business leader. So that is the, I think, visibility for the long run. But nothing to worry about in the short run. You need to just you will get a job. Like if you have Japanese language, and if you go for any industries as a generalist, definitely there is a job. You can start with that, and you can gradually thinking what you need to adapt on that.